Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. Check, 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 check. Check, 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 yeah. Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. If you could all begin to take your seats, we would so appreciate that. We want to see how many seats we have left here in the audience. And if you have any seats in the middle, if you don't mind maybe coming in a little closer, so maybe if two people wanted to sit together, they could. We would appreciate it. Thank you so much. Awesome. All right, we just have a few more people coming in. Just take care of a few housekeeping notes. We are streaming this evening live, so in this room you'll see there is 2 cameras in the back, and that's because we are streaming. There's over 300 people online around the world. So if anyone is uncomfortable with being on camera, we have another beautiful room set up downstairs, and we could take you down there now. So is there anyone in this room who does not want to be on camera? Okay, great. All right. Excellent. All right. Well, everyone, welcome. My name is Barry Clark. I'm going to be your host this evening. Welcome to the University of Santa Monica, the Worldwide Center for the Study and Practice of Spiritual Psychology. I want to give a special welcome to everyone who is downstairs, as well as everyone who is streaming online with us, including my mom and dad and my Aunt Kay in Jacksonville, Florida. They are online streaming right now, so hi. If you do have any electronic devices, that's another thing. If you wouldn't mind just turning those either off or in the vibrate silent position, we would greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much. Well, we have a great evening planned for you. We're very excited here. This is our first soul-centered living event evening. It's going to be one of 4 events that we're doing this year. And this first one is on the topic of relationship. And we'll not only be exploring relationship, but from the perspective of soul-centered relationship. And who better to talk to you about that than USM's Chief Creative Officer and our President, Drs. Ron and Mary Hulnick. So they're going to be joining us. We're very excited to present this new series to you. For those of you who don't know, Ron and Mary, they are world authorities and experts in the field of spiritual psychology. They're also the founders of the programs here at USM, and they have developed, delivered, and facilitated these programs for the past 35 years. Prior to their work at USM, they were both instructing master's and doctoral level students at New Mexico State University. They're both licensed marriage and family therapists, and Mary is a licensed clinical psychologist. Their book, which many of you may have read, it's called Loyalty to Your Soul, The Heart of Spiritual Psychology, published by Hay House, is now available in 8 different languages and 12 countries around the world. Yeah. Great book if you haven't read it. And also, they've been happily married for the past 37 years. So personally, I think they're 2 of the best people that could be speaking to us on the subject of soul-centered relationship. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome to the stage Drs. Ron and Mary Hulnick.
I'll go around.
Well, welcome, everyone. It's just really a joy to be here this evening. We've really been looking forward to this from pretty much the day we decided to do it. This is one of our favorite topics, relationship, and a warm welcome to all of you who are here online as well.
Yes. Barry, I don't want to be filmed. Do I have to go downstairs? Okay, well.
Oh dear, that might bring up my abandonment issues.
At least we'd have a sense of what we're working with.
Yes, yes, we certainly do. So, well, to start this evening, we'd like to do a short guided meditation, just really to assist us all in coming into, let's just say, loving resonance. So I'm just going to invite you to close your eyelids if you like, and if you prefer to do this with your eyes open, that's just fine. I invite you to focus your awareness in your heart. Knowing that your heart is a gateway to the loving that is your essential nature. And you can come into loving resonance, greater loving resonance, with that loving that is your essential nature by simply following the rising and the falling of your breath. Breathe in the loving And breathe out the loving. And you may experience the warmth of the loving that is present within you. And I invite you to experience that on all levels of your consciousness, in every cell in your body. And the warmth of your heart is like the light of a candle, softly glowing, radiant with light, with loving. And allow this warmth to flow through you, lifting you, enfolding you in the presence of love that you are. And in this moment, we give gratitude for the blessing of being gathered here this evening, the opportunity to come into greater awareness of who we are, awareness of the love that we are and the love that we share. And in the spirit of gratitude, we say thank you. So be it. All right, so you can bring your awareness back here into the room if you haven't already. So we're just going to give you a little thumbnail of overview of what we're going to be doing together here this evening. We're going to start by sharing a little information about relationship, and then we are going to do some question and answer about what we've shared or other questions that you may have about relationship. A little later in the evening, we're going to do an activity that you'll each have the opportunity to participate in. You'll be doing that with yourself. And then we'll take some sharing from the activity, and to complete the evening, we'll do a short guided meditation.
Whoa, that sounds like a lot. You going to start?
No.
I think I'll start. All right, so approaching any subject, especially the subject of relationships, the first thing that you have to know, well, first of all, let me ask a question. How many people are either current students or grads? Oh, good, I have a lot of support.
And
how many of the rest of you got dragged here? No, you don't have to.
No, but how many of you are new to USM, that this is your first USM event? Well, let us welcome you. Yes.
So as Mary was sharing, what USM is all about is spiritual psychology. Spiritual psychology. As contrasted with, I don't know, I'll call it regular psychology, everyday psychology. all the stuff you read in the ads that try to sell you something. So here's the difference. We'll just place it right out there, and then we can get into some of the Q&A and get to some of the questions that people have. When we're dealing in spiritual psychology, what we want to be involved in is soul-centered relationships, or spirit-centered relationships, if you would, which is not necessarily the same as the way that we all grew up thinking about the subject of relationships. So the prevailing cultural view, the way that most people grow up and think about relationship, it goes something like this. Like, you're walking down the street, and all of a sudden, there she is. Or there he is. Oh. And on it goes. Now, the first thing that means is that within about 2 seconds of before you had that experience, you were in some other state that would be not love, or different from love, or less than, because you had the experience of falling in love. So before you fell, you were tethered someplace else. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that when we have that kind of an experience, where is the focus of what has happened? Where is the focus of what has happened? It's on the other person. Oh my God, there he is, there she is. I have fallen in love. That's the person. So we refer to this as the normal outside-in approach. Outside-in approach. We go looking for the right person out there, and when we find them, the great illusion is that means happiness ever after. Or not. So, in that approach, it's very clear that the magic resides in the other person. I met the right person. All right, let's talk about the automatic byproduct of that approach. So, if you buy into that view, then when things start happening and it's not going the way you think you'd like it to go, and there's some friction and there are some problems that develop, then what we get involved in is what we refer to as the single greatest relationship myth in existence. Not that any of you people would ever think this way, because we're the enlightened ones. But there are lots of people out there who sometimes tend to think this way. Here we go. Everything would be just great if only they would change. Everything would be, they're not the person that they used to be when I first met them. What happened to them? They need to change back into the way that I first fell in love with them. And when they don't, which unfortunately many times they don't, what then happens, it becomes a justification inside of you for fault finding and judgment and criticism, and that goes on and on and on and on. And all that ever results in is blame and fighting and pain and suffering and increasing degrees of interpersonal separation, regardless of whether you separate from them physically or not. Just start to feel coming apart. So, from our point of view, this is a lot of what is going on in the current way that people deal with relationships, and to us is why the divorce rate and all of those other disharmony in relationship is happening, is because we've bought into a view of relationship that, at least from the spiritual psychology perspective, is inaccurate. It's an illusion that we have been sold, not by people who are trying to hurt us or anyway, it's just That's the prevailing notion. So let's talk about the alternative. Excuse me. Soul-centered relationship. So as I said, the biggest problem with the prevailing view is the mistaken belief that the source of our happiness resides in the other person. They have to behave in a certain way, they have to treat us in a certain way, etc., etc., etc. But now let's go back to when we were walking down the street and we had that experience of the falling in love. So I would say, well, where did that experience occur? See, where did the experience itself occur? Did it occur in the other person? If I asked you, did it occur in the other person? You'd have to say, well, I really don't know. I hope so. The way they behave would indicate that it would, but how do we really know? We don't. All we know is what happened inside of us. That we had an experience inside of us that we label as falling in love. And we use the other person as the reason for it. All right? So far, so good. From the perspective of spiritual psychology, that action of, or that experience of falling in love is nothing more than the recognition of your state that exists at all times were you to gain access to it 24/7. We're saying that your essential nature, not you alone, everybody, that everybody, our essential nature is loving, but it's like we're wearing lenses where we don't see it. And so we only get a glimpse every now and then, such as when we fall in love with somebody else. If you can grasp that idea, that a person, every person's basic, essential, inherent, underlying, I don't know what other words to use, nature is loving. Contrary to popular belief, it is not something we have to earn. It is not something we have to strive for. It is not something we have to do anything to get except take off the lenses. That's what spiritual psychology is all about. People who are in here who are students and grads, I think they would tell you that what we focus on and what we stress in the classes are principles and practices, and oh my God, we've got bazillions of them, it seems to me, to help people learn how to do what they need to do to remove those lenses or those filters of perception. So how would that shift the way I show up in a relationship? Well, maybe the biggest shift that you would make is, rather than entering into the single greatest myth, everything would be okay if only they would change, rather than that, you start asking yourself a question that very, very few people ever really want to ask. And that question is, what might I be doing that I might change inside myself that might affect the relationship? Is there anything that I might do inside myself that might have an effect on the quality of our relationship? And our answer certainly is, yeah. Because, I mean, honestly, who's the person you go home with every night? It's you. That's the person you want to be in a loving relationship with in a very, what shall I say, a very essential way, a very clear way. So how does this work? So let's look at relationship from the point of view of spiritual psychology. Why do we call it spiritual? Because it's based on this notion of love, which is a spiritual term. Loving is a spiritual term. This is what Every major religion, every major system that has ever existed has always said the same thing. What we're working to do is become more aware of the loving essence of who we are. Every religion is geared toward that. Where religions have a problem is in the way that they choose to do it, which conflicts with ways that other people choose to do it. That's a whole other story. So, what do we want to do when we're in relationship? What are we looking for? Well, first of all, it's really cool to have somebody else to share loving with. I mean, I can't think of anything that is more valuable in human existence than that. That to me seems like a prime concern. So, but the other part that we don't quite get clearly when we start, but which comes pretty rapidly, usually within about 2 or 3 weeks it starts to creep in. We find that the other person is starting to behave in strange ways. They're starting to behave in ways I've never seen before. Ways that are weird, certainly not in harmony with the way that I behave. And unbeknownst to us, I show up the same way to them. Because one of the main features of relationship from a spiritual point of view is that we tend to be attracted to people who mirror back the same lenses that we are looking out from. This is why relationship is often spoken of as the law of attraction. So if I have an issue, for example, with rejection, people tend to reject me, but you didn't, that's why I fell in love with you. Before too long, I will start to perceive that you are doing it too. Because it's inside of me. It's one of those lenses that I have to let go of. So this is not the way we were brought up. It's not the way we were brought up. But what we have found over the years, this is a way that works. Because if we have the courage, and I do mean courage, and Mary and I do a lot of couples counseling, and we see this a lot. We speak about dovetailing patterns. As I said, if I have a rejection issue, I'll draw to me people who will tend to reject me. And if they don't, I'll start behaving in ways that I will encourage that. Because I need, from a spiritual point of view, from the point of view of the growth of my own spirit, my own soul, I need somebody to reflect that to me so I can heal it. All they're doing is they're reflecting a lens to me, and if I know how to work with that, then I learn the technology of how to take that lens off. The more I take lenses off, the more I see clearly. The more I see clearly, the more I recognize and live in the awareness of the loving nature that I truly am. Not only that, I give everybody else that same, I don't want to say treatment, that's not the right freedom. That would be a better word to do it.
So let me just summarize this, because this to me is such an important point. And that is, in relationship, when we speak of the law of attraction, there are really 2 kinds of matching energy. And one of those kinds of matching energy has to do with seeing the beauty, the soul essence, the really incredible qualities that originally draw you to your partner. That's part of the matching energy. And that really is what happens when people fall in love. Ron was talking about these perceptions, and it's when we're really in the loving within our own heart that we see rightly. We really see what is, and we see the soul essence within the other person. And that's part of the magic of relationship. That's what really draws us in. But then, as Ron was saying, after you've been in the relationship a little while, then the other kind of matching energy will start to show up. And the way this plays out is that we each have what at USM we refer to as a curriculum. We have the unresolved issues that we came here to heal. And so in relationship, there'll be a dovetailing of these unresolved issues such that our partner will be the perfect person that we can love and adore and have fun with, share life with, and at the same time, they're going to be the one that irritates us, that pushes our buttons, that provides us with the opportunities to really heal these unresolved issues.
Sometimes, again, no one in here, we find ourselves getting involved in what we refer to as serial relationships. I was one of those people, serial relationships. And I don't know how long it took me, but I finally realized, I sat down one day when I started to get involved in all this work, and I said, if I look at all these relationships, is there a common ingredient in all of them so I could work on that? That was what I started to ask myself. And it didn't take very long before I realized what it was. Me. I was the common ingredient in all of them. So it was then that I began to really catch on to what was going on here. Personally, I think that everyone who is attempting to be in a relationship should be required by the federal government to carry around a card.
Really, it should be on their sleeve.
Or that would even be better, because then you wouldn't even have to ask you just kind of peek over. It would be like on the back of food containers, like truth in packaging. So it would list all of your beautiful things about you, and it would list all your unresolved issues. And then you could just check. Let's see. But it's probably going to be sometime before that happens.
So we really get to find out through experience.
So the question that comes down to, all right, well, how do I enhance or create the quality of the relationship that I want? Well, obviously, what we're selling here is that you have to begin by learning how to take responsibility for healing the parts inside of you that are disturbed. What in psychology is referred to as unresolved issues. How do I know if I have any? If you have to ask the question, you have some. I'm not sure it would be possible to be on the planet without having something that keeps you here. If we were all just aware of the pure love that we are, I suspect we'd just, there's no reason to come to earth for heaven, to leave heaven to do it. It doesn't make a lot of sense. Anyway, you get the point. So what this work is all about is learning how to identify and work with those parts inside. And tonight we're talking about it in the context of relationship. So this is what we're doing here. So the more you do this work, the clearer you get. Well, does that mean that if I get really clear, I'm going to have to let go of the person I'm with and find somebody else? So I'm here to tell you that really changing partners is optional. So no, it's not a requirement. In fact, if you think about, we're involved in a dovetailing pattern, and all of a sudden I grow and they do the work and they grow here. I'm going to suggest to you that this person that you are now talking to, you didn't know that person before, you knew the one from down here. So people who are continually growing are continually opening up new things about each other that they didn't know before. The quality of the loving just keeps expanding. And you just kind of, go about your business that way. And I love that, because the more people that do that, and it's happening, more and more people are moving in that direction. The more it happens, the more all of those people become way showers for those who are still stuck in the prevailing view and blaming others for their disturbance. I warn you, this is not easy, because we have a place inside that psychologists refer to as the ego that will do almost anything to keep from admitting that maybe it has some culpability. So you have to be willing to take that risk, to have the courage to dive into what we call the divine unknowing, because you don't know what you're going to find there. I mean, we've seen many couples on the brink of divorce. They start learning this stuff and working it with each other, and they then start to have the best relationship they ever knew. It's different for everybody. So that's just the basics, the basics of relationship and spiritual psychology 101.
So what we're going to do is we're going to open it up for some of your questions, because very often the questions that people have really are the kind of questions that many people have. And so we find by hearing what's on your mind, the things that you're working with or experiencing or wondering about, it's a great way to bring forward more information and more material. So if you have something that you'd like to share.
1 second, Mary. If we call on you, what you need to do is you need to go over there where Kevin is, and then 'cause he's got the mic, and that's where the camera is focused for streaming purposes. So if we call on you, please just go over there, and then we'll hear from you. So someone had a hand up over here. Okay.
All right.
And please start with your name so that we can all start to get to know each other. And one of the things we do at the end of anybody sharing is we clap, we applaud. Not because we agree or disagree with what they had to say, but because we honor them for having the courage to stand up and share.
Put it right on your chin like that.
Hello, my name is Alexandra. So wonderful to be here with all of you. My question that has been so relevant lately is, in all of my spiritual learning and growing and all the tools that I've been amassing, is when is enough enough? And at what point is the loving thing to do is walking away?
Yes. What an
Boy,
excellent
how many people
question.
can relate to that question?
Yeah.
I'm sure Mary has a good answer for that.
I don't know that there's one bottom line way to know. From inside the context of spiritual psychology, what, from my point of view, would be really important is the work of clarifying what's my part of the equation. In other words, what's the pattern that's operating in this relationship? What is it that my partner does or doesn't do that triggers me inside of me? What is the material that's being triggered? And to do your best to learn the tools that will assist you in resolving that inside of yourself, first and foremost. Because if you don't resolve it in your current relationship or as a byproduct of having been in that relationship, part of what happens is that people have the experience that Ron spoke of. They experience serial relationship. The names and faces change, but eventually the same pattern shows up. How many of you have had that experience?
Or experience someone else around you that has had that experience.
Yeah, so that would be my first recommendation. It's like, what is the pattern that's operating here? What is it bringing up inside of me? How can I do the work inside myself to bring that to resolution? And very often, the material will have emotional content to it. It may be that feelings of hurt get triggered. It may be that feelings of anger get triggered. There's a myriad of emotions that can be part of it. But also part of what's important is looking at what are the beliefs that I hold that tend to be creating, promoting, and allowing this to go on in relationship. And that's also some very, very powerful and important work.
There's see, one of the hardest things is, let me back up for a second. I talked about truth in packaging and dovetailing patterns. But there's the question, well, where does a pattern come from? Where does it get resolved? How does
it
that
get
originate?
started? Yeah.
And our answer to that is that because this is spiritual psychology, our perspective is that the entire earth is one gigantic school. We're not the first people to have that idea, but people come here with what we call spiritual curriculum. And they will tend to buy into certain ideas and certain notions and certain cultures that tend to they put on layers of glasses and then they're looking out from them.
In other words, they will be conditioned into the pattern, but they'll have a predisposition to take on a particular pattern.
So that's one thing we rarely know. So I just want to start with that. That's why it's very hard for anyone to tell you what you should do. Because the only person qualified to do that was someone who had access to your spiritual curriculum. I know very, very few people who can really do that. Many who say they can, but very few who really can. But let me give you an example that it's in relationship, but it isn't in man-woman or man-man or whatever, because all relationships really are the same in terms of the way they work, pattern-wise. But we had a woman in the class whose son was addicted to, what's that, the one that the guy in CHH was breaking away from?
Crystal meth.
Crystal meth. Difficult substance to work with. And so he would steal money, he would break into their home, he would do all these things. And the police would come, and the mother, she just, out of what she perceived as her own sense of loving, just could not bring herself to press charges. So she would always bail him out. And this went on and on and on and on. One time he even jumped off a second-story ledge, but he survived that. And so this has been going on at least 10, 15 years now, maybe even longer.
Know.
Long time. And far as I can tell, in one form or another, it still goes on because she has that, I love my son, I can't. So that's one situation. Another mother becomes aware that her son has a crystal meth lab in their garage. She immediately calls the police, and they take him away and they put him in prison. So one could make the case, well, that's not as loving as the first mother. However, the net result is that the second woman's son is now drug-free and living a life that's a life, whereas the other son is still going around in this. So you have to decide where that line is inside of you. One thing that we can say is that whatever disturbance it's triggering inside of you, that would be how you would use this experience to assist yourself in freeing yourself from whatever that unresolved issue is. You say, well, when is enough enough? Well, there are certain guidelines. I'd certainly say it had gone over the line when there's physical abuse involved. And people are tired of being beaten up. And that to me would certainly be one. You may find yourself growing at a level or at a rate that they are not, and you just kind of realize one day we don't have anything in common anymore. But see, these things are all dependent upon what we are, how we are using our life to learn and grow. There's a famous quote that if you've had anything to do with USM, you've seen it, by Teilhard de Chardin. He said, or maybe it was Rumi, I forget, it doesn't matter.
It's Rumi.
It was Rumi. We are not, stop reading my mind, it's very disturbing. He said, we're not spiritual beings. Now I can't remember what it was. You know it, don't you?
Are you talking about that one, or are you talking about the barriers?
No, the using,
Yeah.
or having. We're not.
Human beings having a temporary spiritual
Right,
experience.
right.
Yeah.
Very
But
good.
spiritual beings having a temporary human experience.
Yes.
Now, we've changed that slightly.
Very good. Thank you.
Are you coming to teach her soon? Rather than human beings having a temporary human experience or spiritual experience, we say what we are is we're spiritual beings using a human experience. For what? Purposes of spiritual awakening. You could call it spiritual enlightening. You could call it remembering. All of those things. From our point of view, we have found over the years, and as Barry said, there's a lot of years, about 36 of them so far, that people seem to be much happier when they start to understand that they're spiritual beings using a human experience to awaken. I mean, have you been to one of these things before?
No.
Let me do a quick,
Ron, what are you going to do?
I'm going to do Go Soul.
Quickly?
Oh man, am I going to?
Okay.
I'm going to run through this. We talk about the goal line of life, physical world reality. This is where most people look for relationship. Everybody at the same time is also having an experience that we refer to as the soul line of life. This line is all about love. It's not degrees of love, it's degrees of awareness of who we are. So, for example, saints and people who have achieved high levels are people who look at life from up there. And they look down on the goal line and they behave a lot differently from people who are, let's say, right here, and they're just starting to make that climb up. Everybody will do it sooner or later because that's why we're here. Spirit doesn't seem to care how long it takes. What we haven't really had until now, at least not in my studies, is an experientially valid way of making this ascent. That's what spiritual psychology is. People in the class will tell you it is highly experiential. We start by helping people have the experience so they know what it means to at least take one glass off. So, sounds like you're using your human experience right now for purposes of clarifying and deciding what's really important for you, what you're willing to, let's say, put up with. Because there's no rule that says you have to put up with anything.
What I've been struggling with is doing a lot of work, spiritual work, personal work, is what I say, using the tools against myself. I believe absolutely in taking 100% responsibility, and a relationship that I've continued to go back to and say, what can I do? What can I do? And that slippery slope of, if it's physical, it's really clear. But what about the emotional abuse? And it's like, okay, if you have one fight, and at what point, like when is that enough? That's kind
The
of
question
realm
that you might profit from asking yourself is the part that keeps going back, the part that keeps going back, to ask that part. We do a lot of dialogues here with inner parts. Ask that part, what is it that keeps pulling you back? See, what is it that I keep going back to? What is it that has such a hold on me that I have not been able yet to let go of this, what sounds like an unhealthy relationship, at least unhealthy for you?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. Yes.
Yeah.
Hi. Okay. Hi. Thank you. My daughter is taking
Start with your name.
Oh, that'd be good. Okay, my name is Kathleen,
Kathleen.
and my daughter brought me here willingly, happily, eagerly. She's taking the class with you now.
Yes.
My question is this. My experience is that I am drawn to and more importantly, how can I break this pattern?
That is a great question. You know, a little later this evening, we're going to give you a handout to do the activity, and we put some principles of relationship principles on the back, and I'm going to mention one of them now. Your relationship is a mirror reflecting the beauty of who you truly are, as well as the opportunities for growth and healing. And at USM, one of the principles of spiritual psychology that we work with is that outer experience, the things that happen out here, is a reflection of inner reality. And also that our relationship tends to mirror back to us unresolved material as well as the beauty within us. So I would answer your question with a question. And that would have, the question would be, is there some way inside myself in which I'm not fully available to myself?
Wow. Okay.
Does anything come forward in response to that?
Yes. Basically, I think other people hopefully can relate to this too. What I feel is that I don't love myself enough. I don't feel worthy enough within myself.
That is an excellent, a really excellent awareness. And, you know, unworthiness is the most common misidentification that people have. The misbelief that somehow they're not worthy, and that they're not worthy of somebody else's love, and they're not worthy to experience their own love inside of themselves. And, you know, when we do the activity, we're going to focus on the other side of this, having to do with what is inherently beautiful, valuable, and worthy about you, and give you an opportunity to really take a look at that and to begin to own that more fully. But I'll kind of go to the bottom line of the work that we do here at USM to assist people in letting go of this misidentification of themselves as unworthy. And as Ron mentioned in the introductory remarks, it's like, and just now in the drawing, your inherent nature is loving. It is loving. And you are worthy simply because you're here. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to prove anything. You don't have to you don't have to have any special abilities or accomplish anything in order to experience your own worth and value. It's inherent. It's a given. What would you say, if you reflect on your life, what would you say would be perhaps the most powerful experience that you've had of the presence of love?
My daughter, of course.
Maybe the birth of your daughter?
The relationship with her and growing up, as her, when she was a child and everything, that was it's such pure love. A mother's love is so pure.
Yes. All right. So the reference point you have is the love that you experience for your daughter and that you share with your daughter. What if I were to say to you, that love is who you really are?
That would feel good.
Yes. Would there then be any question about your worth and value?
Wow, I hadn't thought of it like that. That's a great way to think of it. I think I love other people more than I love myself.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit.
Okay.
See, it's like when you are aware of loving your daughter, where is that love?
It's inside of me.
It's inside of you. It's inside of you.
Yeah.
And that experience of the loving that you have when you spend time with your daughter or you think of your daughter, it's always there. It's always there. So really, the idea that we need to love ourselves, it's accurate in the sense that most of us have opportunities to learn how to relate with ourselves in a more loving way, to really learn how to care for ourselves physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually in ways that are demonstration of the love that we are. But the love is already there.
Yeah, and there's such a great amount of it. It's, it's overflowing. So
That's right.
That's
Yeah.
right. See, and you start operating more from the awareness that is who you are. That is your essential nature. And that is the greatest gift that you have to share with anyone. And that when you show up in that presence of loving, in that open-hearted kind of way, magic occurs.
What are you experiencing right now?
Realizations
Mm-hmm.
and experiencing the love within me that I have to give.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of dizzy because of
Mm-hmm.
all of this knowledge that is knowledge and realizations and different ways of thinking about this and feeling about this.
See,
That feels really good to think about the love within me,
Yes.
that I am love.
Yes. And I encourage you to make that your affirmation. I am love. I am
Great.
love. I encourage you to say it every single day. I encourage you to look in your own eyes in the mirror and to say it.
But not more than 1,000 times.
Okay.
See,
That's good.
the experience that you just had really is the exact same experience as falling in love. See, it's no different.
Right.
See, and all we tell people is, as I said to that, if you tell yourself in any way, shape, or form I'm unworthy, you're believing something that's just not true. You couldn't be here existing if you were not already in this state. We're just becoming more and more and more aware of it. We're waking up more and more and more and more. I loved watching you. I could see you transform, right?
Really?
Yeah.
Yes.
Good. That's great.
Anything else?
Yes. No, that's wonderful. Thank you
Wonderful.
so much.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Yes. Yes. Actually, right behind you. And then you'll be next.
And then you'll go, assuming we have time, which I think we will. Great questions, you guys. She knows, she knows.
Hi, my name's Cheryl. Hi, Cheryl. And I didn't think I had a repetitive pattern in relationships, but what I noticed is there's always a sense, or I've created a sense of disappointment with the way that the other individual is either perceiving them showing up in the relationship. And there's usually a bunch of that before the relationship ends. So now I'm actually looking to get rid of that. And I would love to end that pattern. And so I'm wondering, what can I do in order to clear that and get rid of it?
Well, you're a USM student, so I'll talk about this utilizing some of the information that you've already had. You remember in the fall, we did a guided meditation that was really about the healing of memories. And so in that meditation, you and everybody else in the class was encouraged to get in touch with the feeling and then to ride that feeling back in time, to ride it back to earliest time that you can remember feeling that way. So if you were to allow yourself to get in touch with that feeling of disappointment right now, and you were to ride that feeling back in time to the earliest time that you could remember feeling that, where does that take you?
I was probably about 3, and it's with my father.
And what happened there?
I'm not 100% clear on what the actual event was, but I know my parents had been separated since I was like 9 months old. And there's always been a void from what I wanted in the relationship with my father, just in the level of actual relationship. And that's also been reflected in relationships with other the closest men in my life, the people that I feel like I should be able to rely on, like my brother, like uncles and cousins and that sort of stuff. And I feel like anytime, again, going forward, that I've really, allowed myself to trust a masculine person or a male, and really allowed that to happen, that it's always fallen through.
All right. So would it be the experience of they're not really there for me?
Yeah.
All right. So So, and when you shared about that your parents separated when you were very, very young, and that you have an early memory of feeling disappointment, and would it be fair to say that that disappointment with your dad was that somehow he wasn't there for you in the way that you hoped he would be?
I would say so, yeah.
Or yearned for him to be? See, now here's a key point in this, Cheryl. It's what conclusion did you draw about yourself at that time?
That
It's okay, whatever it is. It's okay.
that men will always disappoint me.
Does that ring true for you?
Unfortunately, yeah.
Yeah. See, that's really the root of this, and this is where the work needs to be done. Because the thing about our beliefs, they create our reality. And if you believe that, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And so over and over and over again, you will have the experience of your brother not being there for you, your cousin not being there for you, your dad not being there for you, male friends not really being there for you, male lovers not really being there for you. And it has to be that way in order for this to really come forward strongly enough in your awareness that there is an issue here. There's an opportunity for healing here. So part of this then is really the inner work with that tiny little girl, that tiny little 3-year-old.
Okay.
And letting her know, I'm here for you. I love you. I will never leave you. And even though we experience disappointment then, it doesn't mean that all men will disappoint us. See, in other words, you have to work with the early experience, and you need to recondition this pattern within your consciousness so that you can let it go. And you know from being in class that part of the way we do this is through the very deep process of self-compassion and self-forgiveness. I forgive myself for ever having bought into the belief that men aren't here for me and that men will always disappoint me. Does what I'm sharing with you make sense to you, Cheryl? Does it fit for you?
It totally resonates. I just didn't know what action I could take other than creating another scenario and then being like, oh, here you go, here's some responsibility, and then setting myself up and kind of going from there. But I can...
It's the inner work.
Yeah.
In our experiences, always the inner work. Outer experience, our relationships mirror to us what is unresolved inside ourselves. And part of this is, it's like the feeling of disappointment as a child. It's hard enough as an adult, but as a child, it can leave an especially deep impression because it's just like all the wind goes out of your sails. You know, there's a sense of anticipation, of possibility, and even expectation. And when that's not fulfilled, it can just feel devastating, very, very hurtful. See, and part of it is getting deep down in there enough so that you really connect with the feeling of it, with the emotion of it. And another principle of spiritual psychology, as you know, is that healing is the application of loving. to the places inside that hurt. And so for you to be very loving, very compassionate, very tender with that little 3-year-old is very, very important part of the healing.
Thank you so much.
The way that dynamic tends to work is there's one more piece in addition to what Mary shared. When you get down in there, see if there's a part inside or part of your spiritual curriculum was moving into the belief that other people won't be there for me, especially men, then coupled with that is going to be a because. And the because is going to be, I'm not worthy. So while you're in there doing the work, I forgive myself for ever reaching that conclusion. I mean, it's impossible not to be worthy if this is our nature. Give you some things you can work with?
Some stuff I'm going to work with tonight.
All right.
All right, awesome. Thank you, Cheryl. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Nadine.
Hi, Nadine.
Hello, good to see you guys again. I've been really trying to figure out how to ask you this question, and I was thinking about giving you like a back end of the story, but I think I'm just going to give you the bottom line question, which is, what do you think of open relationships?
Well,
Open relationships?
you mean basically where there's no commitment, there's no agreements?
Yeah, I had somebody propose to me today that is the ultimate enlightened place to come from, to just I know. That was my response too, like that, if we are fully enlightened, we don't have any insecurities, and that it's okay for our partner to do what they want and explore, and we should love them and allow them that freedom.
It's so interesting. I remember the very first time that someone came and told me, this was actually a young woman I knew when I was on the faculty at another university, so this is many years ago now. And she stopped by my office one day to say hi to me, and she said, Doug and I have decided to open up our marriage. And I said, wow, well, that's a big decision. And within about a year and a half, they were divorced. It's one of those experiments that sometimes people like to conduct, and there's nothing wrong with conducting it. It's just, in my experience, that most people aren't wired in such a way where they can really flow with that.
Because maybe it's human that we want to find, it's a human thing. The chemicals in our body want us to find that one life partner, right?
Well, I think it's a very, very personal decision. And everybody has their own path and their own journey. And so I would never say don't conduct that experiment to someone. I didn't hear that part.
I didn't either.
Okay.
So, and I won't ask you whether you want to conduct that experiment.
Well, I tried it out, actually, for a while. And then now I have somebody new who wants to, claim me and for me to be his. And now I'm like, oh my God, I don't know if I'm ready to be claimed and be committed to one person. But then there's a part of me that's like, wait, yeah, I want that, I think. So I've just been confused. So I wanted to just see what you guys thought.
Well,
Wow, I've never seen you speechless before.
You sound like a piece of baggage that's being claimed. And I'll just tell you what my experience has been with that. See, it depends, first of all, on what people are looking for in a relationship. Not everybody is looking for the same thing.
Yeah.
So a lot of it is what someone is looking for in relationship. What I can tell you is that if what you're looking for is to find someone that you can trust your heart in, the word that our Chancellor John Roger used, and it was the first time I had ever heard this word used. The word was entrusting, E-N-T-R-U-S-T, to entrust. It means to give something to someone in trust, that they're going to take care of it, that they're going to value it, that they're going to cherish it. If that's what you want, then I would say open relationship is probably not going to be the place where you're going to find it. I've never seen that work out in a way where people get the quality of the depth that is available in relationship, but not everybody is looking for that.
Yeah.
So it largely depends upon what it is that you're wanting, but if what you're wanting is to really enter into entrusting, to really draw to yourself what I'd call a kindred spirit, it's not going to happen in an open relationship.
Thank you.
Okay?
Thank you. Thank you.
Did you want to do anything after this one?
There was one more man.
Okay.
Hello. My name is Neri. with
Neri?
an- Neri, right. This is wonderful, thank you. This is my first time here, and I'm really enjoying it. My question is actually two parts. You've already answered it to a degree, but the first part is, how does one identify and then start to remove those lenses that you talked about at the beginning? And the second part of the question is, once those lenses start to come off and that love that we are becomes more evident to you, how does it show up in a relationship?
Great questions. So whatever you want to.
Well, go ahead.
Okay. So the first part of the question, what I heard was, how do I know what those are?
How to remove them.
How do I identify them and
How do I
remove-
identify
and
them?
then remove them?
The way that you identify them is really a lot easier than we might imagine. The way that you recognize one is, this is where it gets hard. Anything that disturbs your peace about whoever you're in relationship with. It doesn't have to be a romantic kind of a relationship. It can happen at work.
Right.
Anytime anything disturbs your peace, when you start to get into this mode of spiritual psychology, see, most people will, they disturb my peace. I wish they would change. I gotta, but we maintain the disturbance, and we feel justified. The person who is learning about spiritual psychology says, wow, they disturb my peace. That's an indication there's a place inside that's not at peace because it got disturbed. If it were truly at peace, they could have said the same thing. I just wouldn't get disturbed by it, and I would just deal with the thing that they said. If it has any value for me, I would deal with it. So the identifying question is, it's going to be any time anything disturbs your peace. Now some people go, oh my God, that's just about everything. But we all have to start somewhere. I mean, I was a champion peace get disturber. Before I met Mary, of course. And then the second part is that this is really what spiritual psychology is all about, to help people experientially learn what the options are. In fact, you'll have a chance to well, I guess we'll do it in a positive way here. But see, the pattern is going to be, wow, that disturbed my peace. What was it about it that I found disturbing? What am I making wrong?
Right.
How do I stop making it wrong? How do I let go of that tendency inside of me to make it wrong? And as Mary said before, the process is learning how to do what we call compassionate self-forgiveness. I forgive myself for entering into judgment about that thing. I don't have to do that. What happens when I don't judge things? If something happens and you don't like it, you decide to what degree you want to work toward changing it. You just skip the whole disturbance part.
Right.
But this is a very rich and dimensional process. This whole, we call it working your process. And the foundation of it is learning to take responsibility, as Ron said, for our upset, our judgments, so that we can really release and let go of the negativity inside ourselves. And we have a myriad of tools and processes that we teach at USM for that purpose. And if you want to take a look at our book, Loyalty to Your Soul, if you're new to this, which it sounds like this is your first evening, it might be that you would enjoy reading the book, and it would really give you a lot of foundational tools and keys that you could use to start to enter into this work.
And let me just be clear that, this is not something, I mean, this is like working out.
Sure.
You have to be devoted and really enter into this kind of work with a commitment and an intention that I really want to experience that. Our point of view is that, unlike working out, this is what we're here for. This is exactly what we're here. This is what our spiritual curriculum is composed of. So I just said in 3 sentences what sounds easy enough, but believe me, it's not. It's not. It takes.
It's a process, and it's a process of shifting from the source, the cause of my disturbance is outside of me, to there's disturbance inside of me, and I can take responsibility for it, and I can learn to let it go.
Okay. And then once I'm letting go, then I start feeling better. and so forth.
As you let go of it, what happens is that more of your essential nature starts to shine through. So more of the love, the joy, the aliveness, the enthusiasm, the creativity, the humor, the brilliance begins to show up. And it's really kind of amazing as the limitation and restriction falls away from people, just the majesty of who they are is revealed.
And as that's being revealed, how does that show up in a relationship with a partner, for example?
I would say that more loving, more fun, more depth of understanding, more compassion, more acceptance.
Less need to blame, less need to judge.
Less sandpapering.
Utilizing this diagram here, what it looks like, as you start to grow, USMers, you've never seen this before. No, I mean, you really haven't. This is what starts to happen. See, you start to open up to the awareness of the love that is your essential nature. The more you open up to the love that is your essential nature, the less you have inside of me that is going to draw forth disturbance in other people. And when it does, you know, I mean, it's like I used to be, if you can believe this, the president of my homeowners association. We had 110 units in the association. And of course, when something was going on, people would call me to complain about it, which was fine. I didn't mind at all. Sometimes someone would call me, I want to talk to you about, you know, and I said, oh, could you stop for a second? I really want to hear your information, but I don't want to be yelled at and have to deal with your anger. So here's what I would propose. What I would suggest is that you hang up, and when you can let go of the anger and just tell me about what it is, I'll be very glad to hear from you. Or maybe you could just do it right now. Maybe you could, and occasionally they would. And I said, but if you can't, it's okay, I understand, but I will hang up the phone. Now, I could do that because it wasn't a paid job. And if they kept on, I would just hang up the phone.
Yeah.
So we don't have, it's like we don't have to respond in those habitual ways that we've been responding. It really is a large part of this is just breaking habits that aren't working very well for us.
So does this give you a sense of direction?
Well, it does. I mean, I'm already going in that direction, but
Yes.
as it's happening, and by the way, I'm not new to this, I'm just new to here.
Yes.
As it's happening, I'm starting to wonder how my relationships will change, because I've had 3 primary strong relationships in my
Yes.
life. One in my 20s, one in my 30s, one in my 40s. So I'm wondering what's coming next as I grow. How am I going to be in this relationship?
Well, I would say to you, you will show up even more fully as the presence of love. Doesn't mean you're going to be issue-free. Doesn't mean there aren't going to be learning opportunities, because my own personal belief and experience is that as long as we're alive, there's opportunity.
But consider this. See, the more that you go up and the more this opens up, the more is the likelihood that you are going to attract people in your life that are vibrating at that same level. And so you meet different people. You have different kinds of encounters with people. You find, strangely, gee, this person kind of seems to be on the same wavelength that I'm on.
You know, but the other thing I would say, because I don't want to give the idea that it's going to be all wine and roses. You know, it's like different people will tend to bring forward different material from within our consciousness.
Right.
But it all serves purpose.
Yeah.
It all serves purpose of the spiritual being using a human experience to
Become
lift,
more aware of the
To awaken.
to take off our glasses.
Right.
Oh, I can't see a thing.
Yeah. I can't see anything.
Yeah. Anything else?
No, that's great. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we should go to
Okay, do they have these already?
this. No.
Okay, we're going to give you a pink handout, because Mary's favorite color is pink, and then we'll tell you what to do with it. So let's go ahead and give out the handouts, please.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. Okay, once we get the handouts, then you're going to need a writing implement. And if you don't have one of those, just raise your hand. The assistants will give you one. Just keep your hand up if you need a pen. Oh, looks like we're giving them out to everybody. Wow, what a deal.
All right. So has everyone got a handout? Anyone who still needs a handout? So let's take a moment to review this. So we begin with a quote from Rumi, and to me this is one of my favorite quotes on love. The minute I heard my first love story, I started looking for you, not knowing how blind that was. Lovers don't finally meet somewhere. They're in each other all along. So the activity that we're going to be doing is based on the mirroring that we've been mentioning off and on throughout the evening. And we're going to begin with the question, who inspires you? And in this moment, I'd like you to think about someone who inspires you. It could be somebody you know. It could be a famous person that you've never met. It could be an historical figure. It may be someone who's no longer alive. It may be your partner. And once you've identified the person, so just take a moment, go inside. Who's in a person that truly inspires you? And then you're going to write your responses one at a time to the following 6 questions. And we're going to go through the questions, and I'm going to provide an example for you, and then you'll have a little time to write your own responses. So who is the person, and what do they represent to you? Well, the person for me is Mahatma Gandhi. And what is it about them that inspires you? Is it a quality, something about their character, something they contributed, something they accomplished? Well, for me, it's his incredible strength of heart, his incredible commitment, his presence of peace, his service, his wisdom. So then question 3, what is the experience that is evoked inside of you when you think of this person? Well, when I tune into Gandhi, what happens inside of me is I just go into this great silence where I experience just a reverence, a respect, and an awareness of a profound peace. The next question, number 4, if you give that experience a voice, what would it say? As a way of owning and accepting the experience and the qualities, write statements beginning with I am. Well, what would that voice say? I'm experiencing strength of heart. I'm experiencing reverence. I'm experiencing the presence of peace. I'm experiencing love. Question 5, can you think of any ways you can take actions that would be a living demonstration of your expressing these qualities? What are they? Well, one action I could take would be each morning to set an intention for my day, that as I go through the day, to the best of my ability, to show up as the presence of peace. And then the last question, actually write down a description of yourself taking these steps in the present tense. Is this you're taking these steps right here and right now? Well, I'm bringing forward the strength of my heart. I'm present to the peace that I am. And I'm sharing that peace wherever I go with everyone around me. So whoever the person is that you pick, there's no right or wrong answer here. And then just answer the questions to the best of your ability. And we're going to take, probably about 8 or 9 minutes for this. 8 or 9 minutes. Okay. Okay.
So how many people would like a little more time? All right, we'll take about a minute more.
So we'll take just a little more sharing at this point, and maybe something came forward for you in doing the exercise. This is really the positive side. See, we wouldn't be able to see it well. There's a relationship that you're sharing here. And if you'd go right over
Come on,
here.
right around.
Because the person when I was volunteering with brightly wheelchair with stuck together, you know, with string and things, and compared with the other athletes who had kind of cutting edge, state of the art wheelchairs for their sport, his was really a tatty little wheelchair. But there was a charity at the Paralympics whose gift was to help repair and replace the Paralympic athletes whose equipment got damaged, or you know, things wrong with prosthetics and crutches and things like that. And so he'd brought along his wheelchair to ask if they could make it a bit better for him. And they had a look at it, and it was in such a state, you know. And the technicians, the 80 technicians volunteered to come and help, you know, in this project. So the engineers looked around at his wheelchair and said, you know, honestly, it's in such a state, we really don't know where to start. And he was crestfallen, you know, and they said, so we're going to make you a new one. And they weren't allowed to make it into a state-of-the-art wheelchair. It had to be just a good working version of the one that he had. And so he went away, they worked fast, and the next day he came back and there was a perfectly sound, working version of his little wheelchair. And because it had to be his everyday wheelchair as well at home in Nepal, it wasn't a special sporting one. And he was so grateful. He burst into tears. You know, he sat in his chair. He was so thrilled with it, more than all the other wonderful equipment that there was around the Olympics, you know. And the manager running that charity place said to me, you know, he's been back every single day to just thank us for his wheelchair. And there was his old wheelchair sitting all scruffy, but brightly coloured. He'd decorated it, he'd made the most of it. And so he sprang to mind when you asked this question, because I thought he was so sweet and he was so grateful and so brave to be entering the Paralympics. He was the only entry from Nepal. Wow. And you know, the sweetness of him, the gratitude that he expressed, he wasn't comparing himself unfavorably with all the other he'd been to myself. Attitude.
Beautiful, and it sounds like you're very aware of acknowledging and owning those within yourself as well.
It was very, I was enormously touched at the time.
Yes.
And I often refer to that, yeah.
Beautiful.
Gratitude is one of the qualities that as you open up, you find yourself becoming more and more in gratitude.
It's a beautiful story. Thank you, Jane. Thank you. Jess.
Hi, I'm Jess, and I chose to pick my mother as the person who inspires me. And as you know, my mother was diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's, and what is so beautiful is the quality that is my quality exercise. That was the quality that came forward in what I am so inspired by within her. It's this quality of grace that she possesses and her ability to move through this disease with so much presence and grace. And in doing the work and going through my process, yesterday we were painting together because that's part of my second year project. And in the way that I've been relating to myself and shifting in my own relationship to myself, yesterday I was present with her as she was painting, and usually I paint with her, like next to her. And yesterday I decided to just sort of watch her paint. And so she was painting this picture, and Let It Be was playing, and she started channeling in a way that I haven't seen her do before. And she's at the point where her communication is very limited. And she just looked at me and she said, "You are so beautiful." And I looked at her and I said, "Well, what?" And she said, "You are so beautiful and you are going to have everything you want." And I started crying. And then she started to sing to Let It Be with using the tune, but "Don't cry, my daughter, you are going to have everything you want," singing to the tune. And it was like this moment where I was just like, oh my God, this is actually happening. And she's a reflection of how I've been relating to myself. And I feel like had I not gotten to that place, I wouldn't have been able to open up the space for her to be able to even have this dialogue with me. So in doing the exercise just now, grace is what came forward, and I really feel like I am fully embodying that now. So
That's
thank
beautiful.
you.
Beautiful, Jess. Thank you.
Let's go over there. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Ilana. It's so good to be here. My dad, the person that inspired me the most was my dad. He was 50 when I was born. And when we moved from Romania to Israel when I was 4. He was 54 and had to restudy the law and a new language. And even though he worked all day and studied all night, he would show me the stars and explain to me how the constellations move with the help of an apple and a lamp and an orange. And when I was a teenager, by then he litigated reparations for Holocaust survivors, and he was like a therapist to them. He never looked at his clock. And at his funeral, we never knew anyone because they were the clients who have come to show their respect. He was kind and loving. But by the time I was a teenager, I was a rebel, and I didn't pay much attention to my parents. And my father looked like he was by then, 60. He looked like Albert Einstein, while everyone around in Israel were soldiers and macho kind of guys. So when it came, I think he knows on the spiritual level, he knows that I loved him. But when it came to the I am statement, I'm sorry, my dad. I'm sorry that I didn't show you the respect and the love that you really so deserve. So I thought that maybe it's not a commitment or an intention, but maybe I will go to a place that has old people for an hour, and I will just be with them in the name of my dad. And if I do it, I will let you know.
That is beautiful.
So thank you so much.
That is beautiful, Elena. Thank you. There are many ways to complete something.
So of course we didn't tell you this when we gave these things out, but if you look at that bottom line that you wrote, the challenge obviously is now going to be whatever it is that you put down there.
The quality.
The qualities. Can you see any ways that you can take that quality and demonstrate it more in all of the relationships in your life, especially the ones that are the most challenging? To the degree you do that, you may be very surprised at the results. So will we bring
All
Mary
right.
back up?
Well, to complete our part of this, we'd like to invite you to just participate in a brief guided meditation. And so, once again, you can do this with your eyes closed or with your eyes open. We're going to play a little bit of quiet music. And once again, I invite you to focus your awareness in your heart, that center of loving, that is the gateway to your essential. And this is a meditation on the blessings of relationship. And in this place of stillness and peace, I invite you to consider and reflect on the precious relationships that have been and are a part of your life. And to reflect upon the beautiful blessings and gifts that you've experienced, shared, and received. It may be the blessing of heart-to-heart communication, or the blessing of deep intimacy, the blessing of friendship, of companionship, the blessing of kind words, of experiencing the generosity of spirit, the blessing of giving, the blessing of receiving. The blessing of healing of separation, the blessings of joy and laughter, the tapestry of your life is woven with the threads of relationship. Yes, the challenges, the opportunities are all part of it. And when we distill it all down, it is the golden threads of love that run through our lives. And it is that flow of eternal love that enlivens us, breathes, and provides it with us with the infinite opportunity to grow and deepen in the awareness of the beauty, the strength of the heart, the loving kindness, tenderness, compassion, wisdom, creativity, and joy of who we truly are. And as we complete this evening, I invite you to fully receive these gifts within your heart, to know that they are the blessings not only of who you are, the blessings that you have to share, and the blessings that are available for you to receive through participating in relationship. So be it. All right. Well, we thank you all for coming, and we're going to invite Barry to come up, and he'll be closing the evening for us.
Thanks, Ron and Mary. I feel like we've been on a journey together here. Thank you so much. If you enjoyed exploring soul-centered relationship with Ron and Mary, I have some great news for you. USM's Couples Workshop, which is one of our most popular workshops here at USM, is going to take place this year. It's April 29th, 30th, and May 1st. So if you'd like to spend a whole weekend with Ron and Mary exploring soul-centered relationship, you'll have an opportunity to do that. We welcome 100 couples in that workshop, and it is a workshop that does sell out for us. So if it's something you're interested in, you can sign up for the workshop in the back. Natasha has a board she's holding up. And then downstairs, Lenore also, you can sign up with her. They also have brochures, handouts for very detailed handouts for what the workshop is, so you're welcome to pick those up on your way out. Ron and Mary mentioned the book Loyalty to Your Soul, The Heart of Spiritual Psychology. And again, for those of you who are new to this experience, it is a great book, as they said, to sort of get some of the basic foundational principles. And that book, we do have it for sale if you're interested, in the back here. It's with Lisa, and downstairs with Lenore. And then some folks have come this evening because they're exploring the possibility of the Soul-Centered Living 10-month program that we have here at USM. And I wanted to take a moment to just introduce some people on staff, if you wanted to talk to them this evening, that are here. Downstairs, we have our Director of Admissions, Tammy Scott. She's available, as well as Ashley Sloan, who's a member of our admissions team. Up here, we have Nancy O'Leary. She's in the back. She's our Director of Education. And then also myself, Barry Clark. I'm the Student Advisor at USM and also the Senior Admissions Advisor. So we're happy to speak with any of you. If anyone would like a longer, more personal one-on-one conversation where you could actually explore how that program might work in your life with your goals personally and professionally, I recommend a call, and you can sign up for those in the back. Melissa has a sign-up sheet. We also have one downstairs with Lenore, and that's just a way to set up a time to speak with an admissions advisor and have a more in-depth conversation. For those of you that shared with Ron and Mary, if you would please see Licia, she's got her hand raised there before you leave this evening, that would be great. And then there are 3 other evenings that we're doing as a part of our Soul-Centered Living series. And the next one is going to be April 6th, and it's on finances, and not just finances, but finances within the context of spiritual psychology. So if you're interested in that, you can go to our website, universityofsantamonica.edu, and RSVP there. And we also have handouts, both upstairs and downstairs, that give the specific dates and some details on those evenings. And of course, we wouldn't want to let you go with a full soul and an empty stomach, so we have some refreshments for you upstairs as well as downstairs. I want to thank everyone who streamed with us this evening. Mom and Dad, go to bed. Aunt Kay, love you. Everyone else who's streaming, thank you so much. For those of you downstairs, thank you so much for joining us. Thanks to all of you, and we look forward to enjoying some refreshments and chatting with you. Take care. Thank you.